Well, we're back from Cape May, and it just could not have been a nicer little mini vacation. Somewhere at the end of this video, I'll try to include a couple of pictures that show the area. It's a spectacular area if you like older Victorian houses or living at the shore. And our friends Ken and Darlene are wonderful hosts. But it's time to get back to our restoration project. I should say projects, because as I look around, a couple of things happened while we were away. Number one, Turbo Steve's tank has had 4 days to dry. It's ready for the decals whenever Turbo Steve is going to have some time to make his way over here. I had several days to think of how this side cover project I'm working on is going to play out. And today is the day I'm scheduled to get the delivery of the carbon fiber from Dave Midgley and Dick Hewitt. I'm looking forward to that, of course. Then we've had our first night where the temperature has gone down below freezing, and that usually means that's the time I hook up the battery tenders, and they'll be on until spring. And that'll be one of the projects today. I like to keep the batteries on charge all winter because you never know when you're going to get a surprise riding day. You just never know. Now, it was 30 degrees when I woke up this morning, but you never know when it could go to 50 or 48 or something, and you can sneak in a little ride. And so from this point in the year on, I have 2 battery tenders. Each one does 3 motorcycles. And what I do, I let them stay overnight, move it to the next one, overnight, next one, overnight, back to the first one. So every 3 days, the battery will get fully charged. That seemed to work well for the last 4 or 5 years. And we're still not at the end of the riding season, but to be honest, you really get, once we have a frost, you really got to be thinking you're not going to get to ride every day, realistically. And that's why we restore bikes in the winter, not in the summer. And to be honest, I do enjoy the restorations really as much as the ride. So for me, it's a great hobby. Now 4 days ago when we left for Cape May, this tree was full of yellow leaves. And this is what happens the first time you get a frost in this part of the country. So we're going to be raking some leaves as the days goes by, and the biggest thing, they all go in the pond. There's our neighbor's cat Goofy taking a drink out of the pond here this morning. But this time of year, the fish do not get fed once that water temperature drops. But here's what we have, the leaves in the pond. I've got to do this 2 or 3 times a day, or the pond just gets full of leaves and it gets disgusting. And Karen's amazing zinnia garden does not have a bloom. Well, maybe there's one up here that didn't die from the frost, but we did have a frost. There's one over here. Wow, 1 flower. I had to bring that into her. 1 flower left from what has been an amazing summer in our garden. Hope you've enjoyed sharing some of it with us. Right on schedule, we got our carbon fiber from Dave Midgley and Dick Hewitt. Oh, now just to take this apart. Oh, I'm so excited. Now we can start the Ninja Restoration Project this week. And thank you, Dave, for such good service. Wow, I can't wait to open this puppy up. Wow, that thing weighs about 100 pounds. That's pretty funny. Now, just in case some people don't know, Dave Midgley and I worked on carbon fiber development parts for basically about 20 years. Dave has always been very helpful, knowledgeable, and obviously a good friend. So we got to see what's in here. You gotta open the package first. I'm sure he put extra tape on this, so my precious carbon fiber would be perfect when you get it. I'm really excited about getting this package. And thank you again, Dave and Dick. Now, it's just the way I work that I'm kind of addicted to the idea that I like to have all the material in-house before I start a project. I like to have all the paint, the thinner, the sandpaper, and this was the last piece of the puzzle that we were waiting for to actually start the Ninja project, so I could pull the motorcycle apart, or pull some of it apart, or who knows what. That tube, in case I want to bury a worm or something. So let's see, this is carbon fiber twill. it is absolutely, yeah, I wanted all the carbon fiber twill on the motorcycle to match. And this is the same material that I used to make the mufflers for the R1. So I'm going to leave the paper on it until we're the plastic until we're actually ready to use it. And by the way, a good thought, if you're going to order some of this from the internet or from eBay or something. Now I get it from Dave, who gets it from Dick Hewitt. Here's the whole thing in a nutshell. You don't want to fold it. The fold makes it puts little kinks in the weave and stuff. When you want an absolute perfect job, you leave it on a roll. And in this case, I'm going to leave it the next couple of days while I have to make up another side cover. And then we'll have a dedicated day of making, I want to get the two side covers, carbon fiber from one edge to the other. I'll make a separate video of doing that. And then once that's done, we'll be ready to, those are the last two parts. We're ready to disassemble a motorcycle or disassemble parts of it and start working on it every day. Because again, once we get the freeze and the leaves fall, it's really, you know it's coming. So we're at this point that I'm starting to get all my ducks in a row here. The hardest part of this whole thing so far is I wanted to settle on a gold color. I wound up buying enough gold pigment that I could probably make 3 or 4 gallons of gold paint, because you never know when you're going to drop the bike or something. Or I'm going to want to make a twin to this, an evil twin. I've gone through concept sketches. John's come up with some nice ideas to start making our logos with. We've kind of settled on how many arrows and how big they should be. And now we have the carbon fiber. That's really the last piece of the puzzle. Now what that means is I got to get out there today and just piece up the other side cover. And by the way, when I look at the photos with this piece, in fact I had one here. Maybe I have one here already. And I could show this. Once that piece is in place, this whole piece will get carbon fibered in one. I'm not going to have to make a little fillet at the bottom. I don't want to have a kink in it. The kink will make that it doesn't match the way I want. And then I wanted to get something beside these little, I don't know what they are, decorative covers. I didn't really care for them either. But it's going to change, I think it's going to change the whole look of the bike. And this is how this evolves, by the way. We started out with this, we started out with that, we started out with arrows. I've documented all of this. Because this stuff doesn't, when you really want to have it something exotic that looks just like what you have in your mind's eye, the one thing it always does, it always takes time and it always evolves. It changes constantly. But then in the end, you wind up having something like we had last season with the FZR, and all those videos are already out on our channel. So today's little project is going to be, I have a template for a very accurate template in fact. I marked it final template. This is for the right side. Now when I make the left side, it may be a different curve because the two sides of this motorcycle are not exactly symmetrical. I want to make sure I have enough material here, and I do. I'll definitely be able to get that, even if I have to extend it a little bit. That won't be a problem. Doesn't matter what side I use, it's going to be sanded down. One side of this has a relatively smooth, one has a relatively, the carbon fibery feel. It won't matter, but I've got to take into account the other side of the motorcycle is a little bit different. So the next step on this is I've got to go out to the garage, pull that seat off, pull the side cover off, and see if this is going to be an exact match. And if it is, it's even better. But if it isn't, then I got to improvise. Luckily, I had Cheerios this morning, so I got plenty of paper left to make another Cheerios template. So in actually making up this part, I wound up finding a rubber cover that I liked a lot better than that silvery thing. And when this whole piece, I've got to make a little radius in here, maybe with Bondo or something, because I want this to flow. I want it to have the appearance that it's one piece, all one piece. So this side again is similar, but not exactly the same, because this would have a shock mount here, has no shock mount. Again, I've got to find a little rubber piece or something that'll go in there. Now, the thing is, I have a pattern, and I'm just looking around if there's any other restrictions here. Well, see if the pattern is even close. So here's where we're having a part to start with. Now I know I have to change this here, add a little bit here, and then take into account this has to go further back. I want it to end with this piece. So it'll be a whole different pattern, but this gives me a little bit of a head start. And there's the modified pattern. Now, of course, to cut that out and then start trimming it back, finding out all the points. We've actually done this once before to create this pattern, so we know that these are going to be totally different. Not totally different, but we would not be able to make two the same, and, well, because the two sides of the motorcycle are a little bit different. It's always a good idea when you cut it out, leave it oversized, and you just trim back until that part, like a cork in a bottle, fits in wherever there's an interference. I can run a pen around it and then just trim it. And this part of it takes a little time. Now, it's been a lot of give and take, and I made, I think, 3 or 4 of these patterns already. So I wanted to get this as accurate as I could. I want it to be just enough oversized that I can get my final fits and finishes on. I think that's going to be just about what I want right there. So it's a long time coming, but we got our final pattern. And it doesn't really matter how much cardboard I use. We have plenty of Cheerios boxes in the house. Anyway, we do have now I've marked this. I got the final right side, the final left side, just in case we ever want to make these over, or if we want to make whatever. It's always good to have I've got many hours tied up in these 2 templates already. Now, just like with the first part, I'm going to leave the pen line on when I cut this. I want to make sure, yeah, it's good for the whole piece, that I've got enough material. Now, one of the things, of course, always save all the scraps. You never want to throw the scraps away. They're always useful for something. I've got a lot of time tied up in these templates, but I think because this piece is going to be one of the defining pieces that changes the look of a motorcycle, and it's little things like this. Now, it would be lovely if Kawasaki made this part, or anybody, but then I'd have a boring winter, and I'd be sitting here, you know, building snowmen or something. Anyway, I want to just cut this out with the jigsaw. Now, the next thing on this part is to prepare it for going out for a final fitting. I want to get the tape off. I want to use the detail sander, the little Warrior that we did a little review on not that long ago, and we've had really good luck with it. Really good luck with it. Really enjoyed using it. It's going to be critical on some of the parts, like the wheels, when we have, because I want those wheels to be, the wheels are always my pride and joy. Whenever anybody looks at the motorcycle and they see it, and then they look real close, they go, whoa, that's just a little bit nicer than what the factory makes, or hopefully anyway. Anyway, now I want to get both of these sides sanded smooth. It doesn't matter. We're going to cover them with carbon fiber, what's on the final edge. But I do want to then take it outside and get a final fit on everything, and then mark where we're going to make the glue joint. This is all little Harbor Freight Warrior with the coupon. I think it was $16. It's so handy. I want to roughen the whole part up because I want glue and ultimately the resin that we're going to use to stick to this. Now, this is the most critical part of the whole job, is to get this piece joined to the other piece exactly the way we want it. And that is ultra critical, to get this joined up exactly the way we want it. So I'm going to tuck this under the other piece, hold it in place, tape it in place, whatever, and then get a nice exact line on that where the joint will be. Then take that piece of tape out, and using that as a pattern, tape off the rest of the piece. Because once this is joined, then we have to go out and do a final fit. And see, because we've already done this on the other side, and the material's already made, and we already have a pattern, we might be able to get this piece joined up to the other piece in one day, in one session, where the other one took several days. You know, I've traced that edge, and I can take this tape off, and I have an idea, a pretty close idea, of when I take this down into the shop to join that up, and that has to be a relatively accurate joint. Now I'll get a brand new razor and trim that, because I want to have an exact fit. I don't want to have, and I don't want to do this glue joint, I don't want the glue dripping down here and making any extra work for me. So now you can see we have that piece there. Let me get this off of here. Just an extra piece of tape. And see how that's going to line up. And if we're happy with the alignment, then we can take this piece off, bring it downstairs, and make the joint. And then we're going to have to come out and final fit this, because I want those joints to be really nice just to match the other side before I carbon fiber it up. Okay, now what we have to do is exactly where this is going to join, I need to roughen up the material. I want it rough. I've already degreased it. I want it clean because we're going to be putting an epoxy carbon reinforcement back here, so I want it to get a grip. There's no point making a reinforcement if it's going to just pop right off the plastic. And anything you do plastic, if you try to glue anything to smooth plastic, it's really hit and miss. Roughen it up. This is 180 paper. I roughen up the other side where these are going to join. Then I'm going to get some Brodak 5-minute epoxy. And what I'm going to have to do is hold this in place, babysit it. And once it's done, then the trick is going to be to go out and make sure it fits. And it fits accurately. And if it doesn't, run back in the house, use a hairdryer, and I can soften it up and move it. But right now, I want to see if this is going to be, you can see exactly what we're going to try to do. I'm going to put the epoxy on both sides and then try to hold it in that position, and basically for 5-10 minutes. This is Brodak 5-minute epoxy. I like to use Brodak epoxy because I know it's fresh. It's not been sitting at a Lowe's or a Home Depot or something, and it's a very good quality epoxy. So I want to get some on the edge here, and this is to really make just what amounts to be a temporary joint. It's not really a permanent joint at this point in time. And then I have to babysit it for some amount of time. Maybe go have a cup of coffee while this is curing out. Once I get it to stick together, and we'll come down and do the fitting. The fitting is the whole thing. Now, having this material on here, this tape, all it's doing, the tape is showing me where that part should be. Also, if any of this runs down here like icicles, which sometime it does, it'll be easier to get it off of the tape. Okay, so we don't need that. Actually, we don't need this anymore either. Let me get that out of here. Let's see if we can get this lined up. This will be in our favor here if we can. And since this is not a permanent joint, now what I thought I'd try to do, I didn't do this the first time, but give it a try. See if that'll hold that. Sure, that'll hold it. Maybe I can get this to clamp here. Since I have all these clamps. No, it's not doing what I want to see. It's the reason I can't do it over here, it's going to make the piece crooked. So I will just have to hold this. Yeah, that'll be fine. It's not the end of the world. I just have to sit here for 5 minutes. Well, while Karen's brewing up a cup of coffee, that'll be great. Okay, so that piece joined up. Now this is just a temporary joint. I don't have the reinforcement on the back. But before I do that, this epoxy joint will be soft, maybe 15 minutes or so. Especially if I hit it with a hairdryer, I'll be able to just shift that or move it if it's a little bit out of alignment. But once I know it's in alignment, I know all these edges, I'll leave the tape on so I can draw with a pen line. I'll pull the tape off and we'll be ready to do the reinforcement on the back side. This is moving along pretty good today. Now I can see the only spot that's really tight here and take that little bit of material off, and down here it's a little tight, here it's fine, and down here just a little bit with some sandpaper, and I think 2 little swipes of sandpaper and we're good to go, ready to reinforce it. Now what's really handy when you need to take a little bit, a roll of sandpaper, when you need to take just a couple of thousandths off to get that clearance. Now I think it's safe to say we have that. Now the next thing is going to be, I'll do it downstairs. Pull off the tape and get this all sanded off. Radius all the edges off, get it nice and smooth. First thing I want to do is seal this edge, just so while I'm doing this part of it, I'll be using a hair dryer for heat. I don't want to have icicles of epoxy coming down that I have to work to clean up later. This will just minimize that. And all that's there for is to keep the heated epoxy. Now what I'm going to do is heat some epoxy, drop it down in here, try to make that like a ridge, and then I have a piece of carbon fiber to make a reinforcement for it. So the carbon fiber and the epoxy, and this is all roughed up on both sides, that should make this solid as a rock. Then once I know that it's dry for half an hour or so, what's going to happen is I'll do the final, make sure everything is just perfect. And then that'll probably be the last step before we carbon fiber it. Getting that little reinforcement in there, that'll really make this solid. And this will all dry up while I'm having a nice cup of coffee. 5 minutes, and we'll be ready to do the next step on this. And all these loose hairs, anytime I get one, just switch. Here comes another one. You get a loose hair, just pick it right up with the Q-tip, get rid of it. And the heat will let it go right down into that ditch and make a real nice radius for us. Now I'm just degreasing the part for a final time. I want to take it outside for a final fitting. Take my sandpaper roll out there. The most it's going to need, I hope, is a swipe or two of sandpaper. And this job really went well. I'm really surprised. I'm hoping it obviously is going to fit close. This is reinforced. The glue is dried. I want everything degreased because the next step on this is we're going to be sanding it, a thorough sanding, and then laminating a sheet of that real nice carbon fiber that we just got from Dave Midgley on here. That one went a lot quicker than the first one, but they always do. That a final fit on the part worked out just perfectly. Couldn't be happier with that fit or finish. Now the only problem with the whole day is we coming up on the end of this work session. And what I want to do, I want to share some of the pictures we took. They're just pictures of some Victorian houses that we really enjoy seeing, and some seaside houses. And we're going to put those pictures at the end of this video. So today, a pretty productive day, and that's about all we're going to have time for today too. I was hoping Steve could come over in the next couple days, get the decals on that before it really gets cold out there and gets rough to paint outside anyway. And we have enjoyed, this is just good information, we have talked to Dave Midgley about using a 207. He used it on making a kayak, worked great, so I'm even more enthusiastic about using it. On the next video or in the next couple days, we're going to do the carbon fiber work using that resin. And there's a little more prep to these. We have to sand them, I have to build a fillet. But on the next video, we should be able to get these carbon fibered. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoy sharing these couple of minutes of our recent trip to Cape May. And thanks for watching. Every year, Karen and I visit our friends in Cape May, Darlene and Ken, and just look at the street they live on. Tell me this isn't a cool place. If you've never been to Cape May, and look at this, I'll do a panorama here. Right on the ocean, Unbelievably beautiful. Turns out today's a beautiful day. We're going to be here for 3 or maybe 4 days. We don't know yet. Some of the nice houses in the area. And usually what we do as part of this, we take a trip down to the older part of Cape May, where there are some really beautiful houses, and I'll do a little photo shoot of that part of this video. So hope you enjoy sharing this. Now this is pretty cool because Ken and Darlene live on this long beach street. They put out a bowl of water for the dogs, and the people walking their dogs up and down this street stop and take a drink. How cool is that? There's their beautiful home where we'll be staying, but we do enjoy touring Cape May. It's a really beautiful area.
Your feet all the way out, you can stand when it's
Right.
low tide.
Yeah, I see. Well, it's a beautiful day today. So these are some of the older Victorian houses in Cape May. I love to take pictures of these houses. Both Karen and I love the gingerbread, and we just love the old houses, let's be honest. And we try to decorate ours accordingly, up to a point, of course. The neat thing about the shore houses is they all seem to have, these older ones, balconies and widow's walks, and look at the mansard roof here, and of course they're all pretty close to the shore. They're beautifully landscaped. A lot of them are bed and breakfast, and we've stayed in many of them over the years. We've been going down there for 20 years already. And we do enjoy just touring around, and on this day, it was a beautiful, beautiful day. We always do the tour, and then we walk around the center of Cape May, and then we go to the more modern area where this is the older part of Cape May that actually faces the ocean. And some of these houses, they're all more than 100 years old. Some of them, when you look at the detailing and the woodworking, the craftsmanship, the workmanship, I don't even know what. And even the churches, the older churches, almost every one has some kind of an outdoor balcony or somewhere that you can go out on a roof, and even the church has beautiful workmanship. There's just everything about these places. Some of them are very, very unique. I look at the woodworking, and you don't see two the same, because back in the old days, everybody was trying to outdo. I'm assuming most of these people were very wealthy, and they wanted their home to reflect how much money they made, and well, not a lot changed over the years either. Nowadays, everybody just buys more expensive stuff. There's a dinosaur in the driveway. Check that out. And this is the more modern section, and in probably a course of 2 hours, we get to see the sections of Cape May, West Cape May, and whatever. There's actually a part of Cape May that's called Cape May Courthouse, where we had lunch. And some of these used to be farm country. They're just beautifully flat and level ground. Look at the grass, the landscaping. Even the more modern houses try to reflect the thing where they have gingerbread and they have the little woodwork, the little fine detailing woodwork. And as you go past the surf, this day the wind was really blowing. There was nobody out on boats, but usually there'll be, in the warmer months, there'll be sailboats out there. And here's an example of the decking. People that have decking out on the upper deck. Look at the decks on this house. And in the area where Ken and Darlene live, this is the street that they live on. I was taking a picture of some of the houses. And it's just a getaway from where we are. This time of year, there's only 3 people on that street, that big long street that looks like a drag race. There's only 3 people that winter out over there. So they have that whole street. If you had a Hayabusa, you could go up and down that street all day long because there's nobody out there. And look at the railings on this and the decking, and it's just a great place. And it reminds me that we come from a world, and actually we come from a group of people that workmanship was everything, and craftsmanship was everything, and people took pride in their work. And I'm sure to a certain point they still do, but some of these houses are just over the top. And the ones, I didn't bother taking pictures of any of the really elaborate ones that are bed and breakfast. And some of them, the woodworking, even outside the house, and you'd see what they have to do because they're near the ocean. These houses get painted every couple of years too. and they're well maintained. I mean, it's a beautiful area. I just can't even imagine how you could do some of the woodworking on this. Think about it. You know, they didn't have any of the modern milling machines or anything. And there, of course, is Karen and Darlene getting ready. And there's the shower. Look what happened to our shower. Check that out. How cool is that? And we got to see a beautiful sunset, of course. And the other beautiful thing, this is the sunset through the upper deck of their house. This was just a spectacular day. Oh, that handsome guy, boy, he needs a facelift. It was a special day, and I hope you enjoyed sharing it with us. Thanks for watching.